welcome to Boss Talk with Empowering Maven. This is the Woman of Success segment, and we have special guest Ms. Lauren Brown joining us today. Now, Ms. Lauren is the owner of LRB Global Consulting Services, a series LLC, which she started after retirement. She is passionate about helping startups and small businesses with business structures, compliance, training, and intellectual property protection IP services. She is known as the IP savvy expert. Her background is an attorney, author, professor, speaker, and trainer, and community advocate prepared her for business. Lauren is a published author of books, ebooks, and articles on various business topics such as business, compliance, profitable business mindset, and intellectual property, IP, and artificial intelligence, AI. So her business model is your regulatory health is your business wealth. Ooh, never heard that. I love it. It is new and unique. So welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you. We are ecstatic to have you as a guest of the Women of Success and to be joining us on April the 5th. So tell us a little more about you in your own words.
Okay, well, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for this opportunity. And thank you for what you do and what your company does, because you touch a lot of lives. And I know you're on the eastern seaboard of the U.S. and I'm in the South. So your reach is very, very far. So thank you for what you do. And as you mentioned, I've had multiple lives. But what I really enjoy about this stage of my life is that I had an opportunity after retirement to form my company. I've had businesses in the past and had a consulting business, but what I decided to do was to combine those skills and be obedient and pursue the mission and the assignment that I have. And that assignment is really being of service to startups and small businesses in particular. You mentioned the community advocacy portion, and I'm still very much involved in various communities in various ways. But in terms of my beginnings, very humble, grew up in inner city Chicago during the tumultuous 60s and 70s. So I am a baby boomer, been around the block a few times. And the thing about that time period was that there was a lot going on, certainly worldwide, but certainly in the United States and really in Chicago. And so we had hypersegregation, gangs, riots, the civil rights movement, lots of things going on, and higher education opportunities. So that was the kind of the environment that I grew up in. I have 5 siblings, and our mom was really a champion in a lot of ways and really taught us to not only do the right thing, but really help out others when you can. We also had dedicated teachers, church leaders, and other community leaders who really encouraged us to be the best we can be. They protected us because, again, there were a lot of safety issues, especially growing up in the inner city of Chicago. But we made it through, and we're giving back. That's what my company is all about. So that's a little bit more about me. And right now, running the consulting business, which I started after retirement, is continuing that mission and that assignment.
Yes, I absolutely love it. And it when I saw you, it just aligned. I am very much in the business of supporting entrepreneurship. I believe
Yes.
it should be taught early on in school versus, teaching our children they need to go to school. Not saying that, it takes anything away from going to school, getting any type of degrees or trades. It's just
Sure.
we preach go to school and then go work for someone else versus not building their own dreams. Nothing about building legacy or wealth building do we teach them in school to actually prepare them for in the real world. So
That's right. I agree. And historically, that's what we did because those opportunities were not available to us. Our neighborhoods were self-contained, which in a positive way, money turned over multiple times before leaving our community. And where I grew up at in Chicago, my dentist, my doctor, lawyers, all of the professionals, we were all in the same community because of hyper segregation, especially in Chicago, there were not very many opportunities to set up professional practice outside of traditional Black neighborhoods. But I saw it as a positive because of the role models that I saw every day. Like I said, most of the businesses in my neighborhood were owned by people who looked like me.
Yes, yes. That is a beautiful thing. And, I say today's generation doesn't really understand, or they take for granted those type of things. So many doors have been opened for us that they can walk through, but you got to let them fall on their face just a little bit. So
that is so true. So
that's
true.
That's what I'm learning.
Uh-huh.
So tell me, if you had to describe yourself in 3 words, what would they be and why?
Wow, I pondered over that question because I could think of a lot of words. But the 3 that I came up with, Miss Lanice, are passionate, faithful, and intuitive. So I say passionate because I have not only a lot of passion, but people notice that whatever I put my mind to, again, being obedient and carrying out my assignment, I am very passionate about it. I will go to the nth degree, try to figure out, how to make things better, how to figure out issues and problems as part of my training and background as a lawyer, and to simplify complex concepts, interpretations, rules, and regulations. We're governed by them on a daily basis. So I am passionate.
Okay.
I say faithful because God is at the head of my life, and He orders my steps and equips me to do things that I was not sure I could do, honestly. And so the faithful part of it is, again, once the passion is there and the assignment is there, I'm faithful to that. And I have a daily routine, if we'll get a chance to talk about that, where my faith is very strong and it keeps me going, because there have been some tough times. You're an entrepreneur, you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
The last one is intuitive. I've always had a sense of things going on around me, and being able to talk. I talk a lot to young people, people younger than I am, because I do a lot of training and consulting. And so the intuitive nature really allows me to see beyond what people are saying, what people are doing, to say what's really at the root of what's going on. So there is an intuitiveness that has really bode well for me throughout not only my career, but my personal life.
Yes, yes. I call those people who really are tapped into that part of themselves ordained, especially when they put God in their lives. So I say, once He's in it, anything that you take to God and you go through God and you ask Him to align your steps, He already reserved the resources for you. He's going to provide. It's not going to fail.
That's so true. He provides. Once He gives you an assignment, picks out what you're to do with your life and order your steps, He will make the way for that to be accomplished, His will to be accomplished. And it took me some time to realize that, but I'm much, much more obedient. So those would be the 3 words that I was thinking about. Absolutely.
And I love them. They very much align with you in what I see. The intuitiveness speaks volumes to me. Volumes. I love that, especially like I said, when you really tap into that, it just means that it's ordained. And when God gives it to you in that vision,
that's right,
you can see it, it saves you from a lot of things. And it also helps you to help other people as well.
And that's a way of growing too, because I've noticed, at least for me, staying in alignment, following what's been ordered as my assignment. I haven't always listened. But once you do that, not only do you have a level of peace, but you also grow as an individual. And when you grow, people around you grow, and you really are a better service to your clients and your customers, because they see that in you. And it's like, wow, this is kind of, this is catchy. Yes. Or this person really not only knows what they're talking about, but they have really some energy around it. And
Yes. Yes.
energy is contagious.
Contagious.
It,
Yes.
it really, really is. And
Yes.
so, and as you get older in life, like I am now, you really crave that energy. You need it to keep going. So it all comes together.
I love it, especially when it's good energy, positive energy. But I
Mhm.
can see that it's pouring out of you. I can see it. So I
Yeah.
love it. I love
Oh,
it. But one thing you said, we don't all follow our path the first time God calls us. I can't
mhm.
even tell you how many times I've tried to walk away because, in all intents and purposes, I say this all the time, and a lot of people don't get it. I don't like humans, but I love them. God
Yeah.
has given me this loving heart
Mhm.
where I will give you this shirt off my back and
That's
I
right.
want to fix you. I want to solve all your problems. I want to be your best friend.
Mhm.
I just want to
Mhm.
make everything sunshine and peaches and cream. And then I get frustrated and be like, this ain't for me. God said, Miss Ma'am, come on back to the table
That's right.
because nothing else is going to prosper until you do what I told you to do. Now get to it.
That's
Toughen up.
right. And sometimes, things happen in our lives. We've all had these experiences where we're on what we think is the path for us. And then we find out, no, that's not really the path. And something happens that really is, if you look at it, becomes a blessing. And so,
Absolutely.
um, that's happened in my life where I was on a path, worked for basically for the public sector because as a lawyer, when I came out of law school, there weren't a lot of opportunities. And I knew I didn't want to work for another firm. I wanted to, frankly, have my own firm, but I also wanted to be of service to people who didn't really have a voice or didn't have the same level or same type of voice. And so I worked for a legal services agency and did a lot of community work. And then met the person that I married and was married to for a long time and moved to another state and community. And the first thing I wanted to do was to I did go to the public defender's office because I
Okay.
saw how things were going on in my neighborhood in particular and the rift between the community and the police and the criminal justice system. So I'm like, I'm going to be a champion and champion
Yeah.
the rights of the accused.
Yeah.
But there were no jobs in that community. However, there were job openings in the prosecutor's office. And while I had never thought about being a prosecutor, that opportunity really created a path for where leading up to where I am now. And the reason I say that is I was, I have a lot of firsts in my life. And one of the firsts I had was first African American female prosecutor in that county.
Yes.
And the first
Congratulations.
African American female deputy prosecutor, where I actually was a manager making decisions about what came into court. And that does influence ultimately what happens to adults and juveniles. I worked in both systems. And so I never saw myself as a prosecutor, but I realized a few things right off the bat. Who holds the cards? It's the prosecutor. Prosecutor influences
Absolutely.
everything that goes on in the system. And I came to really understood that and to also say, wow, this is some power. And I wasn't getting off on the power part of it, but it was more, this is your opportunity to really do the justice that you've always wanted to do. And I had a great boss, great staff. Then I was able to be a manager, to head up a unit. And all of those things taught me that once that opportunity is there, you have to be ready. And even if you're not ready, if you're in alignment with what your assignment is, you will be made ready.
Absolutely.
And so that is what happened and really led me down a path that really made me even more so want to have my own practice. And so after a number of years working in the public sector, I actually did start my own practice as a solo practitioner,
Okay.
and then later formed a firm with another attorney. And that way I did do criminal defense work, business advising, just a variety of things. But I also was a court commissioner. So I had a chance to marry people.
Oh.
Even though I did divorce work,
Okay.
also married people. So it was a nice balance. I have been truly
Yes.
blessed in terms of that. And all that has to do with who you see today. And I am so thankful for that.
I love it. Your journey has been remarkable. Congratulations to all your
Yeah.
success, to all your first, to your
Oh,
first. I
yes.
mean, that is
Mhm.
pivotal. That's groundbreaking. Congratulations. I mean, my
Thank you.
goodness.
Appreciate it.
I like in all, I'm kind of like a little starstruck a little bit.
Mhm.
That is
Yeah.
a beautiful thing. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
And while you were telling that journey, so what can you tell us? Maybe is there one pivotal moment that made you say, okay, you know what? It's time for me to get out of this lane and step into my own lane. Was there
Mhm.
like just one key thing that happened?
Well, yeah, I think a combination of things happened. One was being married at the time. We had two incomes, and when I started to practice, we struggled. But our daughter was in middle school, and that was a pivotal moment for her. And I wanted to have more control over my time and my schedule. So that was certainly one thing, was where she was in her development. And there were some things going on in the community that were basically crying out to say, hey, you know, it's time to make that transition. And then also, I wasn't getting any younger, frankly. So in planning that, we decided this would be the great time. And the interesting thing is, some of my first clients were parents of kids that I prosecuted, which
Really?
was a real surprise to me, in part because they saw, one, if I said I was going to do something, like if your kid comes back to the system again, here's what's going to happen. And then I would follow through with that. But also, our staff was small, so we had to cover for each other. And even though I was the manager of the unit, I still had a caseload. And so I was really able to stay up to par and up to speed with what was going on in the cases. And the families appreciated that. But the other thing too was, I really worked hard and still do to be fair. Things are not always going to go my way or anyone else's way, but if you're fair and you're consistent in what you're doing, and you can sleep at night and you can back up what you're saying,
Absolutely.
and that's all you can ask for. And our community is predominantly European. So these were white kids and their parents who decided, not the kids, but the parents. And obviously it wasn't court-related issues, with different kinds of issues that they had. But that was a surprise to me. I was not expecting that. And so that was just a testament to kind of how I not only live my life, but how I approach the practice and understanding the role that I had. So it was really interesting. But that was the pivotal moment. I said, okay, it's got to be now or never. And
Okay.
it was then, and the rest is history, as they say.
Okay. So I have kind of like two different questions, and
Mhm.
don't beat me up. It's a little off, a little off script, but I always wondered, because you were a lawyer and the things that you saw, how did that play a part in your parenting and, expectations for your child and things that she could and couldn't do and
Thank you for that
punishment?
question. It is such a, oh my goodness. My daughter and ex-husband and we could tell you some stories, okay? One of the things that it did was it made me a better parent, because something as simple as asking your child, how was your day, can work wonders. Just not just talking to your child, but say, how was your day? And as she got older, she was like, Mom, my day was the same as it was yesterday. But it's like, you know what? One thing that I will tell you, this real short story. I'm from Chicago, and the day Harold Washington died had such an impact on me. I was at work, happened to be listening to the radio, heard that he had died. Now, my mom and Harold Washington went to school together. And when I decided to go to law school, we connected. And so we
Okay.
knew each other.
Wow.
And so when he died, I was just too fit to be tied. They picked me up from work. She was sitting in the back seat, and I was just crying and just going on and on and on and on. And she sat back there patiently. And then when I was done, she looked at me and she said, "Mommy, you didn't ask me how my day was." I said, "You know what? You will never be able to say that again." And to this day, when we talk to this day, I ask her, "How was your day?"
Oh my goodness.
And what I got that from a couple of cases where one of the things the kids said was that nobody seemed interested in what their day was like. How was school? And that's something so simple to do. So I learned little tidbits like that. I also said, here's some people you need to stay away from. I can't tell you why, but it gave me a perspective that I know I would not have otherwise had. And I was a better parent. And then we would be out, because the community was small. We would be out in the community shopping or going to the library or whatever. And people with cases would come up to me and start talking about their cases. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh my goodness, no.
Yeah. And I'm not talking about kids doing that, Miss Lenise. I'm talking about their parents with my kids standing right there next to me. And I'm like, hey, time out. Yeah. First of all, and I didn't even wear a watch then, and I don't wear one now. First of all, I'm off the clock. Mm-hmm. Number two, we're in a public place. Absolutely. Number three, what goes on is confidential. Absolutely. In the juvenile court system. And number four, and most importantly, my kid is standing right here. So why? Mm-hmm. So I would, be polite about it, but basically get them out of our immediate area. Yes. And I would talk to her about it, because it was very frustrating for her. And it happened, more than we would like it to. It did happen. And so you had to talk to her about that, and to let her know that, that's part of the job to a certain extent. But also I would cut it off as soon as possible, and could not talk to her about how I even knew them, because all of that is confidential information. But I tell you, it did have an impact on my approach to parenting, and understanding how the smallest thing, especially with the kid, a child, the smallest thing can have an everlasting impact on their lives. Something as simple as, how was your day today? And so I am very thankful for that experience, and to be able to apply that. But, from a kid's standpoint, it's like, yes. I did some work for the school system. So I would show up at her school. I mean, literally, she'd be walking down the hall with one of her friends, and she'd look up, and there I was. And then she's like, oh, am I in trouble? And we're like, well, are you? But so because of what I was doing professionally, she and I interacted, especially when I was doing work for the school system. And I just think it made me a better parent and a better person, but it also gave my family an insight that they probably would not have otherwise had.
That is that last statement was very powerful. Insight they otherwise wouldn't have. Yes. And it makes me, just quick side note. I don't want to get too far off topic, but it makes me think about, us as parents and our daily routines. We get so caught up in our business, and work and stress and daily bills, just in everyday life, and worrying over our children, that sometimes we just forget that they're also little human beings as well.
That's right.
That need, need to talk to and understand.
And I would always make it a point. Yep. Always make it a point. Look, I'm off the clock. And literally I would do this. I would point to my arm with no watch on it to say, this is not the time. This is not the place. I don't want to be rude, but you can call me at the office and we can talk about things then, but this is not the time or place to do it. And people want to, and I understand that, but it's not appropriate. And I have a code of ethics that I have to follow. Absolutely. And also why would you want people around you to know your business? That's what I really grappled with. And our family had long conversations about that, is that, that's part of what will happen. And I will do my best to, shield you guys from that as much as possible. But in a small community, it's hard to do that.
Oh, absolutely. Every small town is very hard. So guys, really quickly, I want you guys to make note of this. April the 5th, we will be having more candid conversations like this with more of the women from Success. I want you guys to come out, tap in, make sure you guys connect with us, because it's not only just a place to, for us to talk about business. You see, as I asked about parenting styles, it's a place for us to be as women.
Yes.
To just be, to learn from each other, to nurture each other, to heal each other.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. We had very few in our office. We had very few, actually throughout my practice, very few women were in the legal profession when I first started. The number was very small. It's much larger now. But even with the growing number of women, not really connected. And see, I was, for much of my career, I was a prosecutor. So it's like,
yes.
There was that dynamic.
Right.
But, people understood. And I remember one lady in particular from my church, when she heard that I had taken the job as a prosecutor and then I came back as a deputy prosecutor, she was like, how can you do that? You're going to sell our people show. I mean, she gave me the whole 9 yards, and I knew her. So I was able, she knew she could tell me that because we knew each other. We went to the same church. But then when she found out I was leaving to start my practice, that same lady said, how can you leave? It's like, we need you in that position. And I'm like, okay, I had to remind her about the initial conversation we had. And she said, yeah, I know, but I had a better understanding. And because I had some struggles throughout that period, both as an assistant and a deputy prosecutor. And then I went to the law school and worked at the law school as a supervising attorney. So we would go to different prisons and help inmates with legal issues, both adults and juveniles. So again, I had a chance to look at the system from the very beginning and post conviction through some of the work I did with an interfaith agency in my community, helping men and women coming out of prison to reintegrate. So it was really the full gamut. And I am so blessed to have had that experience and to be a part of some changes that took place in our community as a result of it. So,
I love it. Okay, so tell me a little bit about since you've gotten an opportunity to see, certain laws change and be implemented. AI is definitely one of the hottest topics out right now. People are so concerned on so many different levels, especially with abuse. How do you see it shaping the business landscape in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, it's had a real impact on what I do as part of my business, because part of my business is intellectual property protection. So, and the law is still this way, and that is original creations by a human author is what is protectable under intellectual property law. So the issue always comes up, well, what if it was generated by AI? Can I protect it? Well, currently you can't. And the government is often the last to catch up with what's going on in the quote real world and in the business world. But finally, the United States Patent and Trademark Office, as well as local offices, every state has some kind of intellectual property law. But basically, they're finally catching up to the reality of how much AI is being used. I mean, I read a statistic that was amazing, and that was that, like in 20, let's see, this is 20, like even 4 or 5 years ago, a very small percentage of businesses were using AI in their business in some way, shape, or form. And if you think about it, AI has been around a long time. I don't know if you ever do business.
Oh, absolutely.
If you ever do business online and you're talking to a bot, that's AI.
Yeah.
Yes. If you call and there's, a recording and you provide information, that's AI. There's lots of examples of AI. But my point is, It is really much a part of our lives now. And as business owners, we have to understand that if we don't incorporate it in some way, shape, or form in our business, we are going to we won't remain competitive.
Absolutely.
We're going to be out there. And the issue is, how do you use that in your business? But also, because what you do in your business is part of your brand, how do you protect that? And how can you use intellectual property protection? So we're talking about trademarks, copyrights, patents, and trade secrets, what you keep inside of your business. How do you really balance that? And that's part of what I help my clients with. And now the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, as well as the Copyright Office, are now saying when you apply for protection, you have to actually indicate what part of what you are asking to be protected, what part of that was generated by AI. And I'm here to tell you, they will know. See, coming from a background of academia, because I taught for many years, there's plagiarism. Everybody's heard of plagiarism. If you went to school, you knew about it. You knew people who did it. You may have done it yourself. Who knows? But it's a similar analysis. There are anti-AI tools out there that can capture it. And so basically, when you submit a registration for protection to the Patent Office, Trademark Office, or the Copyright Office, you have to actually tell them what part of what you're submitting was generated by AI. And believe you me, they will know. And if you don't disclose it and you get the protection, guess what? They'll take it back. Because a lot of registrations were granted during the COVID period. And then the Trademark Office in particular, but they pulled those back because they got smarter about what AI is and how you can create images and so forth using AI. And they figured it out. And they said, oh, no, this particular registration is based on something that was solely created by AI. It's not protectable. So what my point is, in order to remain competitive, in order to keep your brand solid, if you use AI, and there are really some really wonderful reasons to use it, because it really creates efficiencies in your business. It's cost effective. There are all sorts of benefits to it. But I'm here to tell you, once you take that step to protect it, you have to indicate what part was generated by AI and what part was not. And it's the part that wasn't generated by AI, that is your human creation. That's what gets protected. So it's here to stay. I read a statistic not too long ago that said 82% of businesses out here are either using AI right now, or they're putting AI processes in place in their business. And that's everything from the beginning to the end, so to speak. And so it's here, it's alive, it's here to stay. It has a lot of value. But when it comes to protecting what it generates, that's where the rub comes in.
Absolutely.
You just have to be mindful of that.
Absolutely. And so what would you say in your experience is one of the biggest mistakes small business owners make when it comes to legal protections?
Well, one of the mistakes business owners make is that they don't take the right steps to protect what they've created early enough in their business. See, just like you are forming your business structure, whether you're going to be a corporation, an LLC, a partnership, when you're in the early stages and you're forming your business, there's a list of things that you need to be doing. And one of them is intellectual property protection. Because frankly, there's very little that's new under the sun, number one. Number two, given the status of our world, this is a worldwide situation, not just a situation in this country, but given the status of our world and the fact that there's very little that's new under the sun, you need to protect what you have, because for a couple of reasons. One is part of your brand of who you are and what your company is all about, number one. And number two, it helps you to monetize your business.
Yes.
Because if you can claim ownership and control over something, then it's yours to do with whatever it is that you want. And when we talk about monetizing, intellectual property is very much a part of that. And that is a way to grow and scale your business. So it makes sense. And by the way, I mean, it's your original creation. And you need to take the steps to make sure it stays that way. That's really what we're talking about. So it's here to stay. AI is everywhere. It's here to stay. It has tremendous benefits, but you have to take the right steps to make sure that how you're using AI in your business is legal, is ethical, and to the extent that it is part of your intellectual property inventory in business, that you take the right steps to do that, to protect it, so that someone else who likes your idea or likes your expression of your idea or what you're doing in your business, they can't copy it or steal it from you. Yes. Because it's, I mean, they can do that, but then there are repercussions. And that is, you have a solid legal footing to go after them, to stop them from doing what they're doing that impacts not only your bottom line, but it impacts your brand. And you don't want to have your brand diluted, especially by somebody that you may not know, somebody that is putting a negative spin and light on your creation and your business. You don't want those kinds of things to happen. And frankly, you don't always want to go to court because it's time consuming, it's expensive, and you may not get the result that you're seeking. It's not guaranteed. So if you take the steps in the beginning to put yourself in the best position to defend it or to pursue it, then you're just much better off. The other thing about intellectual property protection and AI is that intellectual property is a value-added asset of your business. So you want to guard and protect that. You want to do everything to make sure that that's an asset of your business that you can monetize as time goes on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So 2-part question to that. What's one myth about copywriting, trademark, and, protection that entrepreneurs have? And then
wow.
One myth
How much time do we have? One myth that is out here is that, well, I want to separate copyright, trademark, and patents because they are really different. And let's use the example of copyright. We have a constitution, a U.S. Constitution that specifically mentions copyrights and patents. So it's almost like a God-given right, if you want to look at it that way, that once you create something, there's original content, it belongs to you. That's what the Constitution says, right? If you take additional steps to protect it through filing for copyright registration, filing for trademark registration, patent registration, that gives you extra protection. Should somebody, and chances are somebody will, try to take that expression of that idea. Now, you can't protect an idea, but you can protect its expression. So the way you express an idea, you can protect that expression of the idea, so that if somebody else tries to use that same expression without your permission and without compensation, then you've got what we call some legal recourse. So it's real important because, again, very little that's new under the sun, but your creation, you put your blood, sweat, and tears in it. You ought to be able to use it to the maximum benefit for your business and your market, whoever you're selling this to. Wow. And you want to make sure that your brand is not diluted. That's so important in today's society. And it's unfortunate that we have to resort to litigation, to the courts, to protect rights that we have, especially copyright, because that's and patents, that's mentioned in the U.S. Constitution. Trademark is a phenomenon of the law, legislation. But it has that protection. And again, what we're talking about is, why do we want to protect our original ideas and creations? One, because they're ours. And two, to keep somebody from just taking it and doing anything they want to with it without your permission, without compensating you for it, And really, as important is without diluting what you've created. So we want to make sure, and it's a way for people in the market to distinguish you from your competitors.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a value added asset. And by an asset, what I'm saying is you can monetize that sucker.
Yeah.
You can monetize it and generate a whole other stream of revenue from it. And as a business owner, you have to understand that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that being said, what would you say is one of the biggest myths about success for entrepreneurs that they have?
Oh, wow. I think one of the biggest myths is that success is easy, that it's immediate. See, we live in a society where we expect things to happen immediately, instantly, right away, yesterday. And the fact of the matter is, when you're building a business, especially a business that will sustain itself, doesn't happen that way.
I don't know.
So one of the biggest myths is that it's going to be easy. You're the only one who's going to be doing it.
Yes.
You're going to be a gazillionaire like yesterday.
Yeah.
And all of those myths are not there. And the other thing that we have to realize, and I'm sad to say this, and that is because there's very little that's new under the sun, people take other folks' ideas, expression of their ideas. I mean, everybody can have the same idea. It's what you do to take the next steps to make that yours. And unfortunately, not everybody is ethical and legal about what they do. I mean, that's just the way the world is. And so what you can do as a business owner is take that creation, take the steps to protect it and defend it and monitor it. And then also, how can you monetize it? Because you're in business to make profit. So you need to be able to do that. So that's what I would say would be the biggest myth. Is that things come easy, they come right away, and everybody will love what you do and there won't be any problems. And we all know as business owners that that's not true. And all you can do is protect yourself to be in the best position to defend, because you can't prevent somebody from filing a lawsuit unless you go to court and get a court order preventing them from doing so. Otherwise, if you have the papers that meet the minimum qualifications, and you have the money to pay for the lawsuit, you can file a lawsuit in this country. That's one of the things I love about the U.S., because that's not true around the world. But you can do that as long as you meet the minimum requirements, and then whoever's being sued is in a position to defend it. And you're in the best position to defend it by being on the offense. And one of the things that we're talking about right now, being on the offense, is identifying and protecting and defending your intellectual property, because that's so much a part of your brand and who you are as a business owner. And so you need to take those steps. And that's part of what our company does. We help clients identify the intellectual property. We assist with the filings and monitoring of it. And then we also work with clients on how to monetize it, because it is an asset. And what do you do as a business owner with an asset? You monetize it. And there are ways to monetize your intellectual property as well.
Ooh, yes. I'm so looking forward to April 5th, guys.
Yes.
I can't wait for you guys to join us. We are going to have more tips, tricks, and conversation, real, raw, actionable steps conversation. No fluff, no BS. No, we're not just going to sugarcoat it and tell we give the real deal here.
Exactly.
Just put it to you like that. We give the real deal. The actual, when you walk away from the table, you'll be able to actually implement the steps, and that's what's important when you join something.
Absolutely. And especially in our community, we need to be more aware of this, because so much of what we've created as a people doesn't belong to us for a variety of reasons. We can spend all day talking about that. But the fact of the matter is, we are much more savvy. We are much more protective of what is ours and how we take those steps to do it. We have a better understanding. We take the steps. We make the investment. It is a business expense. And
Yes.
we make the investment to do that because you never know. I imagine, I'll just use Mark, guy who started Facebook, Zuckerberg.
Oh, Zuckerberg.
Yeah, he's sitting in his dorm room with some people. It's like, wouldn't it be nice if we could just stay in touch with each other?
Yeah.
That's the birth of Facebook now, Meta. But, wow. Imagine birthing something like that. And despite all the issues and concerns it has,
yes.
it is a phenomenon that really changed not only the way business is done, but it changed the world as a people, brought the world together. And who would have thought that would have happened except through the big three, CBS, ABC, and NBC? We're not even talking about Fox, all of the other providers that have come out over the years. But, we never would have thought about that had somebody not taken that leap of faith, because that's what it was. I mean, he was in his dorm room, for God's sake, But the beautiful part about this whole area and why it's important for businesses is especially the monetization piece, the piece that says you've got an asset that you own and control, and you can do with it whatever you want. You could sell it. Yes. You can license it, like a lot of companies do. Yes. But it's a way really to grow and scale your business and to leave the legacy you may want to leave for your kids, grandkids, whoever. So
yes, you're gonna make me use your business to do all of that extra stuff with mine, so I don't have to find another attorney to do so. Ooh,
yes, it is because you never know. You just never know what the idea that you have manifested in some way, you've expressed it in some way. You may have ideas that it'll grow and be the biggest thing since sliced bread, but you don't really know. But you better be ready in case it does. Absolutely. And one of the ways that you can do as early in your business as possible is to use intellectual property protection. And because so much of business operations is AI related, that's where AI comes in. And so right now, anything purely generated by AI is not protectable. Yeah. But eventually, I think the government and the regulators will see the reality of how business is being done. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's just 82% of businesses globally are either using it or they're exploring the use of it in a variety of ways. I mean, that's huge. Absolutely. And so if you're not using it in some way, shape, or form in your business, you're going to be left behind. You know that No Child Left Behind?
Yes.
It's going to be a business that's left behind.
Yes.
Not using it in the correct way and protecting what you are using and creating from it, because there are ways to do that. That's a part of what I do is do some training on intellectual property protection, but also intellectual property and AI. And I do have a series that's coming up. We started the series on intellectual property protection, and I think we start AI in July.
Awesome.
Yes, and we are offering, the training is now being offered both virtually and in person. I'm located in Tennessee, so we're offering the training both virtually and in person to really get out in front of this, because if you don't get out in front of it, it's going to pass you over. Yeah, it's going to pass you by, and it's going to impact your business in a way that you may not be able to recover from. That's how serious this is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as we wrap this up for people, for anyone who's listening, who'll tune in later, or and that may be struggling in their entrepreneur journey, wanting to get their side hustle on, wanting to, just start their business, making some extra money, or they may be in it and they have no idea what to do. What's one piece of advice you'd give them today?
Well, one of the things, I didn't do this early enough in my business, and I kind of regret it. But one of the things I do recommend is that as a business owner, you have a mentor and or a coach. Absolutely critical, because you are gaining knowledge, experience, and wisdom, frankly, from somebody who's been there and done it. And it's
Absolutely.
not necessary to repeat stuff that
Yes.
doesn't need to be repeated. So if you have
Absolutely.
a coach or a mentor who will guide you and also hold you accountable and be real and truthful and honest with you,
Yeah.
then you definitely will be a better person. I would say pursue your lifetime goals with passion and integrity. Those both
Yes.
are really important. And stay true to your mission or your assignment, as I talk about your assignment. Stay true to that. And the reason that you got into business in the first place, because there's so many diversions out here. Every new thing. I mean, I know people like that. Every new thing, they're jumping on the new thing and not necessarily taking the time to really grow and develop what was their initial passion.
Yeah.
As business owners, we have to be adaptable and we have to be, but just switching, for the hot new thing that's going on, you don't gain any traction and you're not really building anything that's sustainable that way. I would also say make service to others a top priority. Because frankly, you can be in business, but if you don't have a clientele, a customer base, or a market, you're in
Yes.
business of you're in the business for one person, and that's yourself. And that's not what you're in
Absolutely.
business for. In business to not only generate revenue, but you want to make profit, which means you have to have clients and customers in
Yes.
order to do that. And making service to others a priority not only is biblical and spiritual, but it makes sense because that's always going to be your market. You identify somebody with a need and you can fill that need, you're always going to be in business. At least
Absolutely.
that's what I believe. And then be bold enough to take calculated risks. And I want to emphasize calculated because, on some levels, we're all risk takers.
Yeah.
But having said that, the risks need to be calculated risks, especially as a business owner in today's environment. You definitely have to look at calculated risks, which requires some level of not only critical thinking, but planning and investing, all of those kinds of things. So that's what I would say. Have that coach or mentor or both because they perform different functions
Yeah.
and really seek that out and stay true to why you're doing what you're doing. Stay
Yeah.
true to that because it's so easy to be distracted and jump onto something else like the latest thing. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are all great pieces of advice. One of the biggest ones she stated that I will reiterate is get a mentor. Even your mentors have mentors, you know?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. Like I
I,
said,
I
I didn't necessarily have what I would call a good one early on in my business, but I learned quickly. You need somebody to be, if nothing else, to be able to bounce some things off of, to say, okay, you've been down this path. What was it like for you? Because I have a famous image that I use in my training, and it's a sign that says, "Unless your name is Google, stop acting like you know everything." Because
yes.
no one knows everything, and the everything you think you know today may be so out of date tomorrow, especially in the area of AI. Things are
Yeah.
changing on a daily basis, so no one knows everything. Nobody got where they are by themselves. And if they tell you that happened with them, they're not telling the truth.
Amen.
They absolutely are not. Because you need at least one customer to be in business who's not yourself.
Amen. Yes.
So those are things that, and if you learn and adapt and embrace them, I think as early on in your business as possible, that really helps you to be successful and to sustain your business.
Yeah.
We know that many businesses falter within the first 5 years.
Yes.
And if you make it the first 5 years, then you have the next 5 years because there's another statistic about that. Yeah. So, having a good solid footing, and what we're talking about today is having the means and the ways to protect your intellectual property, to identify it, to protect it, and to monitor it and monetize it. are all critical to not only the success of your business, but the growth and scale of your business.
Absolutely, absolutely. So guys, let us know in the chat if you watch this live or if you watch it on a replay. For those of you who may want to get in contact with Ms. Lauren Brown, I'm going to have her drop her website as well. But if you're interested in mentorship, drop IP in the comments. IP. IP. Now, Ms. Brown, what is your website where they can get in contact with you?
It is www.lauren, Lauren, consults, consults.com. LaurenConsults.com. That's my website. And email is Lauren, Lauren, at LaurenConsults, all one word, .com.
Yeah,
so that's where I can be reached. I have a LinkedIn profile, Instagram profile, and not as active, but a Twitter profile as well. So I can be reached on those platforms. See, I'm a baby boomer, so my use of social media is going to be different, and I'm learning because I'm going where my clients and customers are. And these days, people are on social media in one way or another. So, but definitely email and my website are ways to connect with me. And this has been a journey. It still is, and it's fun. Have fun.
Please do. And now, if you miss her throughout all of those places, guys, come and check us out on Saturday, April the 5th. This is going to be our first hybrid event. So we'll be hosting locally in the Baltimore, Maryland area. You have the option to join us virtually as well. Tickets are available immediately. These ladies have some powerful information lined up. And this time I'm actually going to step in myself. This was a added bonus. So you'll get to hear the power of saying no. Okay. We're going to be talking about reclaiming your time, your purpose, gaining clarity. That's one of the things that I've been working on. So I do have a workshop for that coming up soon. If you are interested in starting a business and have absolutely no where to go, and you just want to jump into something that's ready made, you want to follow some instructions, we have the CEO playbook. So guys, join us Saturday.
Absolutely. It's a life-changing experience, and expect that life-changing experience and be ready to change your life and take action. That's the important part about events like this, is that they are designed to be and are life-changing, but you got to be ready to change.
Yes.
Whatever.
That's a big.
No matter how small the nugget is, if that's going to help you change and get you to the next level where you want to go, or get you more in alignment with your assignment that you've been given, then you definitely have to join us on April 5th. Awesome speakers and women who have been there and done that, still going through it. And can give a testimony. Hey, I went through it. I survived it. I'm going through something else, but I'm going to survive that as well. And these are practical tools and practical nuggets that you'll get from the conference. I'm looking so forward to it. It has been wonderful meeting you and some of the other speakers, and I'm just looking forward to it. It is really, this is a movement. That's what I'm saying. It's a movement, and thank you, Ms. Lanice, for having the foresight, the wherewithal, and the inclination to do this, because everybody doesn't have that gift. And so I'm thankful to know you and to see you take this on and grow us all, because I've done a lot of growing just since connecting with Empowerment Maven. And I'm on the other end of the scale. I'm not, I'm not in my 20s or anywhere, nothing like that. But I am a student of learning and change and transformation. And this has truly been that. for me. And so
I
thank you so much.
No, thank you. I'm honored. Like you just brought a little tear to my eye. I'm sitting here
Oh,
trying to hold it together. Like, don't you see it, cry, girl? Don't you cry?
yes.
But no, I really appreciate it. You know, sometimes it's frustrating to
Mm-hmm.
know how much you want to give to the world, and the world
Yes.
hasn't caught on to it yet because
Yes.
they've been burned. So I'm
Absolutely.
trying to be patient with you all. But
Mm-hmm.
God really is giving you a gift because I want to give back so much.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Much.
And
I
that's a wonderful thing because we're a very selfish society, and I'm not just talking about this country. I'm talking about all around the world. We're a very selfish society, and we're getting away from what really made us not only human but humane in what we do. And so I really saw this not only as an opportunity to show my business and all of that, but really to connect with others who see the value in helping and serving others and equipping others to be successful, however they define that. And
yes,
that's what I love about what you're doing and what your team is doing. Is so awesome.
I appreciate you so much. I appreciate very, very much. I mean, like you said, you didn't have a good mentor when you first stepped in. I've had a few unsuccessful mentorships, and not because I didn't do the work. See, there's a difference between
Yes.
people who actually implement and do what you tell them to do and do the work, and they still don't get any results, and your
Right.
solution for them to purchase another product.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
That
not
is
what
true.
they did.
It's a two-way street. It's not a one-way street. And we all can talk about experiences we've had, and part of it is that we should look at those experiences as a growth for
Yes,
us,
yes,
so that we can do better and be better next time. Because just as you seek a coach or a mentor, you may or may not know it, but you're a coach or a mentor to somebody else.
yes.
And you may know that, and you may not. I can't tell you how many times I've done a lot of speaking over the years. I can't tell you how many times people have come up and said, I remember when, and they go back to like early presentation I may have done, and they said, you really helped me to solidify some things. And I said, well, thank you. I'm honored. I said,
Yes.
but you now have the obligation to pay that forward and
Yes.
help somebody else. Because that's what
Yes.
we say, each one teach one. I mean, there are a lot of phrases out here, but the fact of the matter is you didn't get there by yourself. So help somebody
Yes.
else just like you were helped. And I think that's so
Yes.
important. So that's why I appreciate the upcoming summit and just connecting with folks who are doing stuff. They're not only talking about it, they're actually doing it, taking action, and following up and bringing others along
Yes.
and being of service, because that's what we ought to be doing.
I'm so excited. So again, guys, thank you
Yes.
so much for tuning in. Miss Brown, thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
making time for me today, coming through and dropping all of those gems. I mean, my goodness, protecting you. I mean, I'm definitely one person to preach about protecting your business, but this lady right here, please, she is the queen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I need y'all to go ahead and get in contact with her. Again, if you are interested, please drop IP in the comments. I will make sure you get in touch with her. Okay. All right.
Absolutely. We're here to serve, and we can help. We absolutely can. And you may not see it now, but you'll thank us down the road as you really grow and Murph what you're doing. You're gonna be glad you took this step early
Yes,
on to protect what you've created. Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Absolutely. Just one last nugget. If you guys don't really understand how valuable protecting what you create is, for those of you who follow like TikTok and trends and stuff, the more that that whole thing, someone actually went and trademarked that and took it. So
Mm-hmm.
that young lady had to go through several different steps, and she
Yes.
was on there crying because
Yes.
someone took her intellectual property
Mm-hmm.
and branded it now because they
Exactly.
saw value in it.
Right,
And
because it's the first to get to the office to get the registration, and you may end up, after all of that investment, you may end up having to stop using what you created. And that's a tragedy. It really, really is. When you can take really a fairly simple step, it can get complicated, but a fairly simple step to protect what's yours, and then you control it. And if nothing else, guys, think about your brand. You do not want your brand diluted. And this is one way to help you to keep your brand intact and to grow it and to grow your business. So thank you.
No, thank you again. See you guys April 5th. Ms. Brown, again, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Thank you guys for tuning in to Boss Talk with Empowering Maven. I will see you guys again next week on Tuesday. Actually, no, I have a special guest coming. So I'll see you guys on Thursday. We have a special guest coming through, a special episode. So actually, I will see you guys on Thursday. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in.